because we have some major breaking news. Special counsel Jack Smith has just filed a superseding indictment in the federal January 6th case. In a statement, the special counsel says, quote, "Today, a federal grand jury in the District of Columbia returned a superseding indictment charging the defendant with the same criminal offenses that were charged in the original indictment. The superseding indictment, which was presented to a new grand jury that had not previously heard evidence in this case, reflects the government's efforts to respect and implement the Supreme Court's holding and remand instructions." Let's bring in MSNBC legal correspondent Lisa Rubin. Lisa, what more can you tell us?
Well, Alicia, I can tell you a couple of things. One is that the Department of Justice, or rather the special counsel's office, in bringing today's superseding indictment, didn't change any of the actual charges against former President Trump. They remain identical to those on the original indictment, which was filed a year ago, or more than a year ago at this point, in August of 2023. But we are already seeing, just in comparing the number of sheets of paper, the original indictment was 45 pages long. This is 36 pages long. And so I expect once we start doing this page-to-page comparison, we will see the places where they have taken out allegations in order to try to comply with the Supreme Court's ruling. And in particular, one of the things that I expect will be missing here are allegations about former President Trump's interactions with Department of Justice officials. That is one concrete area that the Supreme Court hit in its July opinion, saying that his discussions with folks at the Department of Justice about whether or not there was election fraud and what they should do about it were part of his core constitutional duties for which he was entitled to absolute immunity. That is perhaps the only area that they gave clarity on. The others, they gave sort of contours about what he would be immune for, what he wouldn't be immune for. But that is one where they gave precise guidance. And so I would expect to see that cut out of this superseding indictment. I will also tell you, this isn't entirely a surprise. When the special counsel's office 3 weeks ago asked Judge Tanya Chutkan for more time to tell her what they thought the appropriate way forward was, a number of folks, me included, thought one thing that they could be doing with that time is thinking about whether they want to supersede and essentially take a first crack at trying to comply with the court's orders rather than dumping it all in Judge Chutkan's lap, as the Supreme Court's opinion essentially does. You see here the special counsel's office making a good faith effort to do that with a newly convened grand jury. That's because the grand juries who have heard evidence in this case before have expired. In all likelihood, they did not bring witnesses before this new grand jury, but rather an agent from the FBI to even read back from transcripts from grand jury interviews that were conducted prior to the first indictment. So we have some reading to do and comparing page by page what's still here. But for the most part, this remains a case against former President Trump, only identical charges and with lighter numbers of pages of paper here in an attempt to try and comply with the Supreme Court's order by taking out allegations of official acts for which the Supreme Court has said now that the former president cannot be charged, much less convicted. Alicia,
do we know anything more about the grand jury that Jack Smith impaneled here?
We don't, and we don't even know that it's a grand jury specific to Jack Smith. I want to go back to that statement that you were just reading from a few moments ago, because I believe that that statement says that while the grand jury here had not previously heard evidence related to the case, that this was not necessarily a grand jury just for this. It just says presented to a new grand jury that had not previously heard evidence in the case. So I'm not even sure that this grand jury was specific to this case. It could have been a grand jury that had already been convened in the ordinary course of business in the federal district of the District of Columbia. That's federal court in Washington, D.C.
Basil, it is a reminder that accountability is happening on parallel tracks here. And while this one track will not happen in the timely fashion that many people wanted to see it in, it proceeds nonetheless.
Wheels of justice keep turning. And, you know, for Donald Trump, it's a reminder to him that he needs to get elected to get away from all this in his mind. But the reality is, and it's an important reminder, that we all have to remember that this is a president who has heretofore, I love using that word heretofore, that has heretofore and will likely continue to see a number of his days in the future in a court defending himself and raising money for the purpose of his defense. And that's something that, you know, as a Democrat, if you're Kamala Harris's campaign or any other Democrat around the country, to constantly remind voters, particularly in those swing states and in those districts, that this is not a person who has been freed or is free of allegation, that it's still out there.
He has done such a remarkable job, though, of getting people to not think about this anymore. I mean, it is really unbelievable. And they've even sort of gaslighted the democracy topic, you know, and turned this around into a political persecution and held it up over and over again as an example of why actually electing him is a way to protect democracy, which is, of course, completely ridiculous, given the man tried to overthrow a free and fair election by calling his supporters to Capitol Hill. So, you know, you saw some really meaningful videos and some like pieces about January 6th during the DNC, but it's pretty remarkable that it sort of hangs in the background. And he has done actually an incredibly effective job of pushing the subject to the background, and we won't have much more information about it before the election.
Lisa Rubin, there's a part of me that wants to free you up as quickly as possible so you can begin to do that side-by-side that you were speaking about. There's also a part of me that wants to keep you with me the entire show. So you will tell me when you have to go. As you look at these documents side by side, what is it you're going to be looking for?
I'm really going to be looking for what's missing because, Alicia, right now my expectation isn't that we're going to see anything new. It's rather that the Department of Justice is going to be taking away parts of the old indictment that they believe can no longer be used against former President Trump. And I want to take you and our viewers back to July when the Supreme Court ruled, because that ruling isn't just about the charges, it's also about evidence. And this is what we call a speaking indictment, right? It goes through events and facts in order to come up with those 4 charges. It doesn't just say we're charging former President Trump with obstruction of an official proceeding. It tells you why and how they allege that he obstructed that official proceeding. And so I'm going to be looking for what they take out of this, both in terms of the substantive charges, but also are there pieces of evidence here that really aren't integral to the charges, but could bear on, for example, former President Trump's intent, or we're here mostly for evidentiary reasons? Those might be gone as well. And so that's going to be forefront of mind for me once I get these documents right in front of me and can do the precise line by line that we were just discussing.
I finally